What do you say, everybody? And welcome to Bama Insider, part of the On3 Network. He's Andrew Bone, and I'm Mick Gillispie. Hey, let's talk about recruiting. That's what we do every Tuesday night. I'm stepping in for Kyle. He's been busy doing a bunch of stuff. So, hey, tag me in. We're like a great tag team, and I can't wait to talk about this number one recruiting class. Before we go there, though, let me say a couple of things. First off, like and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up. You're part of the hottest, biggest brand, not just in Alabama sports, but in collegiate sports right here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. And don't forget, right now, we just threw this thing over, right? We made the switch to On3, and we want you to make the switch to On3 with us. And the way that you can do that is take advantage of the BamaInsider.com special that's going on right now. It's our way of saying roll tide to you. 1 full year of a subscription for $1. That's 12 months. That's amazing. So you can follow everything that's going on with the Crimson Tide, including what my man here, Andrew Bone, throws out, the recruiting nuggets, all the hottest news. And Bone, you just put a story on there. First off, great to see you, my friend. I feel like it's been forever. And secondly, you just throw a story up there and folks can read it for $1.
Yeah, that's right. It's a pretty sweet deal for Alabama fans. I'm sure there's probably some fans from some other programs checking out all the coverage that we have on Alabama sports. Whether that's football team or recruiting coverage right now. But have an excellent team over at BamaInsider.com, which, as you mentioned, we are now part of the On3 Sports Network. So you don't just have to watch our video once a week, the recruiting show once a week. You can go to BamaInsider.com right now. Subscribe for just $1 and get all the coverage. You can ask me a question any time of the day. We have plenty of content that goes up every single day, almost every single hour. Got a great team over there, and we're certainly looking forward to the future, and got a lot of coverage coming up. Joseph Hastings, who does a great job covering recruiting for us, he will be out at some high school football games this weekend. He'll be seeing Justice Haynes, Tony Mitchell, Peter Woods, a lot of top recruits, and going to see a lot of guys over the course of the next few months as the high school football season gets underway. And obviously we'll continue to break plenty of exciting news on the Alabama recruiting front on BamaInsider.com.
Looking forward to it, and can't wait to check it out. Bone, Alabama, number one in the coaches poll, number one in the AP poll, and they've got the number one recruiting class, 20 commitments in, number one class in the country. They added the monster O-line last week, Miles McVay and Raymond Paleto. Alabama has 5 offensive linemen. They might try even to get a 6th guy. These dudes are like a giant wall.
I mean, you look at this recruiting class on the offensive line front. I mean, these are just some absolute monsters. As you mentioned, I mean, these guys are massive. You have Miles McVay, who's 6'7", right, 350 pounds. You have Raymond Paleto, who's close to 6'7", 345 pounds. Wilkin Formby, 6'8", 310 pounds. I mean, this is some serious beef in this offensive line class for the Crimson Tide. Ola Salinen, another 6'6", 300 pounder. So a lot of good size, and I think when Alabama hired first-year offensive line coach Eric Wolford, who came from Kentucky, who'd also spent some time at South Carolina, they knew that he was an elite recruiter. But him jumping on board, going after these guys, and really nailing just about every single guy that he went after. Now there was a few, obviously, that Alabama recruited. Caden Proctor, who signed with, or not signed, but committed to Iowa. Francis Margoa, committed to Miami. Missed on those 2 guys, which I kind of felt like they were going to be long shots from the get-go. Caden Proctor was at this long time Iowa lean, grew up a big Iowa fan from Iowa. That was always going to be an uphill battle, but had Alabama in the top 2 for Caden Proctor when he made that decision. Francis Margoa out of California, but attends IMG Academy now. Alabama was finally able to get him on campus back in June. It was the first time he had ever visited the Crimson Tide. So there was some interest there, and he had a lot of conversations with the Alabama staff, led by Eric Wolford, but in the end ends up committing to Miami. But pretty much all the other guys that he went after, he's been able to land. And, they certainly have one of the best offensive line classes in the country, if not right at the top. So I know they're excited. I don't necessarily think they're finished. Could they be? I think, if signing day, let's just say in a few months we get to signing day, these are the only guys that are in the class, I wouldn't be surprised. But they are still going to go after a few guys all the way until signing day just to see if they might have some interest. A few of those names include Monroe Freeling out of South Carolina, number one player in the state of South Carolina. He visited back in July, late July. It was his first time visiting Alabama, and he has a long-standing relationship with Coach Wolford. Coach Wolford actually offered him when he was at South Carolina, very first offer for Monroe Freeling back when his recruitment first kicked off. So there's a really good connection there. I think he's going to come back for an official visit. Samson Okunloa, who's a five-star lineman out of Massachusetts, he took an official visit to Alabama back in June. There's still conversations going on between Alabama and Samson, but I would lean towards Miami with him right now. I think Miami is in the driver's seat. He's going to take a few more visits this fall before making that decision. And then, Caden Proctor, as we mentioned earlier, still on Alabama's radar. They still would love to get him down for he's already taken an official, but they'd love to get him back for an unofficial sometime this season, maybe for a game. Now, obviously, everybody wants to come to that Texas A&M game. It's going to be kind of a who's who of top recruits. I think, with Alabama, they certainly would like to get some guys in for some other games throughout the season. So they could spend a little bit more time with him if he came a little bit later on in the season, maybe for another game. So I don't think that they are going to stop recruiting him. I think they're going to continue to do that all the way until he says, I'm signed with Iowa. I do think he's going to sign with Iowa, but Alabama's going to continue to recruit. So those are kind of the three offensive linemen that we're mentioning right now. I do think there's probably some other guys who are out there that Alabama's going to watch closely this fall. Doesn't mean that they're going to take another one, but I think that they are still, keeping their eyes open at the offensive tackle position, and could potentially take another one down the road. But those are kind of the main guys that they're continuing to evaluate, continuing to watch, continuing to recruit, and we will, we'll see where we stand here in the next few months.
Hanging out with Andrew Bone, talking recruiting here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. We see you guys in the comments section asking all the questions. Love it, man. Guys, keep it coming. We appreciate you for making this the hottest channel in college athletics on YouTube. And look, we're with a big-time team now on three. Big difference. Look, it is a big difference with the resources that we have, not just at Alabama, but now across the country. It's like taking this. It's like taking Superman and then joining him with Batman and Robin and with Iron Man and with the Incredible Hulk. I mean, it's like this incredible team, and we want you guys to join as well. Be part of the team, and we're going to give you just an incredible incentive to do it. $1 for an entire year of BamaInsider.com coverage, and that includes recruiting with Andrew Bone, Joseph Hastings, and our entire team on there as well. The message board, just all the fun that we have there. So check it out. $1, 12 months, a year, right? BamaInsider.com with On3 and on the On3 network. All right, Bone, let's talk a little bit about some bad news for Alabama. The Crimson Tide lost out to Florida for the big defensive lineman Kelby Collins out of Gardendale. You said that this was a possibility since early July. There was a big push from Georgia. Maybe they were Alabama's biggest threat, but you predicted he'd go to the Gators. Do you think Alabama, even though he's kind of saying Florida now, still has a shot to keep this in-state product?
I do. I think, the fact that he's already, come out and said that he is going to take visits this fall, including an official visit to Alabama. Now, he hasn't taken an official to Alabama yet. He's taken some other official visits throughout the summer, including one to Florida. So he's going to get back to Tuscaloosa for that Texas A&M game. That's going to be an official visit weekend for him. I wouldn't be surprised if Kelby makes it back to Tuscaloosa at least one other time, before he makes that final decision and signs that letter of intent. Obviously, Florida's got to feel really good about where they stand right now after he committed to the Gators a few days ago. But Alabama's not going to let up. They're going to continue to recruit Kelby. They're going to continue to recruit Peter Woods, who committed to Clemson. These were two defensive linemen that we went into this recruiting cycle thinking they were going to, eventually be in Alabama's recruiting class. they turned a little bit and decided to go a different path. But we'll see if all roads end up leading back to Alabama, or if they will continue to stay on their path and decide to go out of state and do something a little bit different. So I don't think it's necessarily all lost for Alabama just yet on the defensive front. I mean, Kelby Collins and Peter Woods did go elsewhere, but we've seen, and we know that a lot of other defensive linemen are still out there, still have high interest in Alabama. I think you're closing in on a few defensive line commitments. I think you got to watch a few prospects like Edric Hale out of Kansas City. I think he's really close to making a decision, probably sometime mid to late September. Also, Jordan Renaud, defensive end out of Texas, going to be making his decision on September the 19th between Alabama and Oklahoma. Still leaning Alabama with Jordan Renaud right now. So these are some, really elite defensive linemen, very talented guys that they are really pushing for. Edric Hill is a pretty unique prospect because he camped at Alabama last summer, visited Alabama in the fall, and really ever since his junior day visit back, I think it was late January, the Tide staff has really been pushing hard for him and really going after him, very heavily. Now he might take a few more visits in September. He says he's probably going to get back to Tuscaloosa one more time before he makes that decision. But I do think Alabama is in really good shape for Edric Hill. I've already submitted a prediction on the recruiting prediction machine, the RPM on Three Sports, in favor of Alabama. You look at that, 94%. I think I might be the only recruiting guy on three that has submitted a lot of that. A lot of those predictions are fan predictions, and they're also weighed throughout the. There's an algorithm that sets it up on three, as far as visits and social media and stuff like that. So I don't understand it all completely, but yeah, I mean those percentages right there, they're not just based on expert predictions or anything like that. But I do think Edric Hill, Jordan Renaud, both those guys, in my opinion, leaning towards Alabama as we get a little bit closer to the month of September. But still a lot of guys out there on the defensive front. And, James Smith, in-state defensive lineman, 5-star, also very heavily interested in Alabama. And I know we're going to talk about him here in a few minutes.
Before we go to the next Alabama topic, Billy Napier down in Florida, is he having any momentum on the recruiting trail? I mean, here he comes to, the state, Alabama, and gets a 4-star recruit.
Well, that's a big win. I mean, it certainly is. And I think they've done really well. They had a few other guys, from Alabama who had Florida on their short list, and they've done a really good job. I mean, we knew that Coach Napier, being an elite recruiter, was going to have a lot of success whenever he did get a bigger job from Louisiana. I certainly expected this to happen, and I didn't expect him to come into the state of Alabama and get a kid who grew up a diehard Alabama fan right off the bat. And you still got to recruit him, you still got to sign him, but so far so good for Coach Napier. And, obviously we've seen a lot of former Alabama assistant coaches, guys that were known as great recruiters that have gone elsewhere and have had success. Whether it was Billy Napier or Mario Cristobal or Kirby Smart, Mel Tucker. I mean, we're seeing a lot of these guys have a lot of success at their programs, and it's certainly interesting to kind of see these head-to-head battles now. And as far as head coach, we used to see it on the recruiting trail. Okay, well, Mario Cristobal was going up against Kirby Smart or somebody like that as far as an assistant coach, but now it's Nick Saban versus Billy Napier, Nick Saban versus Mario Cristobal. We're seeing a lot more of those recruiting battles, and we're going to continue to see those for years to come.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel, guys. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. I see in the comment section, people remind you to do that. Tell your friends about it. Share. That's a big part of this as well. We're going to try to get over 100,000 subscribers here on the YouTube channel sometime soon. We want as many as Alabama has seats at Bryant-Denny Stadium. That's our next goal. We just hit 75,000, and we can't appreciate you guys enough for hanging out with us. And don't forget, this is the big one. You get a full year of Bama Insider on 3 for $1. And I asked Bone before we came on, I said, okay, it's $1 like a month, right? No. It's $1 a year, like $1. It's come on with us. I mean, that's pretty much free. It's $1, that's $1 and you get all the greatest stuff.
That's what our tip is today for this show. Everybody's got to go to BamaInsider.com, get a $1 subscription for an entire year. Plus, you're still going to get us, every single Tuesday night on the Bama Insider Show. But do us a favor, don't send us a tip. Send us a tip by paying $1 and getting a BamaInsider.com subscription fee.
I heard it from Bone. All right, Bone, let's talk offensive side of the football. Alabama has quarterbacks. They have receivers. They have running backs, but I don't think they're finished yet. Jalen Hale is a guy that's going to announce his decision on September 21st. Give me kind of a breakdown of what we're looking at. And do you think Alabama has a shot at Hale, or is it all Texas? And Alabama and Texas have had some big battles here lately.
Yeah, they certainly have. There was a lot of talk, probably, I guess, back in early July, that Jalen Hale was a stone cold lock to Texas. They had captured all the momentum for him, that's where he was going. Well, then Jalen decided to take a unofficial visit to Alabama in late July, attended the Champions Cookout, and there's been some positive momentum in Alabama's favor with Jalen Hale over the course of the last month. Now, does that mean it's a done deal and it has completely shifted in Alabama's favor? I don't think we're there just yet. I think it's pretty tight. I think it's very close. But the good thing for Hale in Alabama, or good thing for Alabama, not necessarily for Hale, but the good thing is he is going to return to Tuscaloosa one more time before making that decision on September 21st. He's going to be making an official visit with the Tide. That first game of the season against Utah State. So he'll be in Tuscaloosa. And guess what? It's one of those games where you're not going to have a lot of, a dog is going crazy.
There you go, Bone.
Somebody must be here. But you're not going to have a lot of recruits lining up the sideline. You're not going to have 50 different recruits trying to have a one-on-one meeting with Coach Saban. So he's going to get a chance to spend a lot of time with coaches. He's going to get a chance to go through and see what the players do pregame and do the meals and all that good stuff. And obviously Alabama is going to try to sell him on joining this class. It's the number one recruiting class in the country. Texas, obviously, still probably the biggest threat for Alabama, and certainly a school that probably feels very confident that it is going to land Jalen Hale, and he should be in Austin for the Alabama game. So you never know how that may play out. Let's say Texas plays a close game against Alabama. Does that potentially move the needle in one direction, or does Alabama just go out to Austin, beat the Longhorns by 40 plus points, and it's a done deal? Hale is going to end up at Alabama. We don't know. We got to wait until the game happens, but I do think the official visit that first weekend is going to be huge. I think that can certainly give Alabama a lot of momentum heading into that game against Texas with Jalen Hale. But they're going to have a really good chance to land him, and they have 2 wide receiver commitments right now: Cole Adams, Malik Benson. I think they're going to get a third. I think Hale's got a good chance to be that third guy. Jaren Hamilton out of Gainesville is another guy that they're still heavily recruiting, that they really like a lot, who impressed the coaches during camp back in June, earned an offer after running a 4.40 in the 40. Now, they're going to continue to recruit him, I think, even if they do end up getting Jalen Hale. But it's probably going to be a little tough. I mean, the numbers are starting to get a little tight. You have 20 commitments right now. They're still recruiting, some offensive linemen, even though I don't think they're going to end up with another offensive lineman. They're still recruiting some tight ends, even though I'd be surprised if they ended up with a tight end. So wide receiver, probably the only position where we're going to see an additional player or 2 over the course of the next few months on the offense side of the ball. Now, defense, completely different story, because there's a lot of guys that are still out there. But once again, they're at 20 commitments. So it's very tight. They're going to have to be very selective over the course of the next few months leading up until that December early signing period. And I think once we kind of get there, Alabama's going to be in pretty good shape, and I think they're going to have pretty good stranglehold on that number 1 recruiting class.
Like and subscribe as you hang out with us. Hit us in the comments section. We're talking recruiting with Andrew Bone. Follow him on Twitter at Andrew J. Bone. And don't forget, guys, that you right now can sign up for BamaInsider.com for just $1 for an entire year. So take advantage of that right now, and you'll get all the latest recruiting news, anything going on in the world of Alabama athletics. You'll get on the message board. These guys spend so much time on the message board talking with you. It's just a really awesome place. And now that we're with On3, I mean, I'm telling you, it's like having resources galore, which weren't available in the past. So it's a great time to join what we're doing here, as Alabama is number 1 in recruiting, number 1 in both polls, and heading into the season trying to win another national championship. All right, let's talk about a couple of guys, Bone. James Smith and Qua, how am I say this? Russaw?
Qua Russaw.
Russaw, okay, yeah. The top 6 schools on Friday, they start to announce that list, and they include Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Auburn, Ohio State. You know, like you see Alabama in there a lot. What are you surprised? What do you think kind of moving forward things stand in their recruitment?
Well, we knew with Quay and with James that these two guys weren't going to make a decision anytime soon. I'm actually kind of surprised they went ahead and announced the top 6. It was originally supposed to be a top 5, but they threw one more school in there before Friday, so they have a top 6 right now. They're going to take some visits this fall. They're just not in a rush, because they know James Smith and Qua Russaw, they're 5-star recruits. They're being heavily pursued by a lot of top programs. They can take their time because they know that each one of these programs that are recruiting them are going to have a spot for them on signing day during that early signing period when they both announce their decision. And they do plan on playing together. We hear this all the time. Wow. We hear so many different recruits say, "I'm definitely playing with that guy," or it might be a teammate. It might be somebody that you're friends with. It might be might be somebody from across the country that you just want to play with. Most of the time, it doesn't happen. At the end of the day, you're going to make your own decision. I do think they're going to make their own decision, but I do think they're going to make a decision and go to the same school. Alabama and Georgia, they were always going to be in it. Auburn was always going to be in it. Florida, they took a visit down to Gainesville last month. Had a really good time down there, so I'm not surprised that they made the cut. Now, as far as these other 2 schools, Ohio State, a little surprised, because when we were talking about schools that would be finalists for these 2 guys, always kind of felt like Texas A&M was going to be there. They had visited Texas A&M a few times over the course of the last couple of years. They had talked very highly of them. Texas was another program that they liked a lot. They took a visit to Miami, took a visit out to USC. Had glowing remarks to say about all those schools, but in the end, it came down to those 4 schools that we mentioned earlier, and then Ohio State, which, in my opinion, a little bit of a surprise. I know that they like Ohio State, but I was a little surprised that the Buckeyes were on that short list compared to Texas A&M and Miami and Texas, who they had expressed a lot of interest in previously. And then the 6th school, got to show some love to Alabama State. I don't think they're going to end up going to Alabama State. Yeah. Of course, you never know in this day and age. What might happen. Obviously, we saw what happened with Jackson State last year, stealing the top recruit in the country away from Florida State in Travis Hunter. They also signed 4-star receiver Kevin Coleman. So, does something like that happen with James Smith Qua Russaw? I'm sure Alabama State's going to try, but I'd be surprised if Alabama, Georgia, and Auburn, lose out to Alabama State for these 2 guys. So right now, if I had to make a prediction, pretty tough. I'd probably lean Alabama, but it's going to be close. I mean, this is a tight race. Going to be a tight race all the way until December. I don't think either one of them are going to know until the early signing period, probably not until that Monday or Tuesday, and then they'll let coaches know. So maybe they'll do something before then. I don't expect it, but it's going to be an absolute war for both of those guys all the way until they announce their decision and sign their letter of intent.
Is there room for two guys to come in? I mean, as you move forward in this, and how does that affect recruiting? I mean, this is kind of a rare thing where two big-time players are saying, hey, we want to be on the same team.
Well, the fact is Alabama wants both of them. They've recruited both of them for a long time. They've both had offers from Alabama for over a year. So yeah, I mean they're going to hold spots for James Smith and Qua Russaw. One thing I always tell Alabama fans, because everybody always asks me, well, how many? What's the number? How many are they going to take? When's the cutoff? Never really a cutoff. Alabama's going to, obviously they're not going to take 35 kids, but they have a hard time saying no to elite players, guys
right,
who are significant impact players that can perform at a high level, and guys that they feel like can make a difference on their football team. James Smith, Qua Russaw are two guys that they feel like are definitely game changers, or guys that can really improve the defense and certainly be big time players here in the future. I think that they're going to remain priority list targets all the way until they make that decision. And yeah, there's definitely going to be room for James Smith and Qua Russaw whenever that time comes.
Wow, that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds, and we'll have the coverage for you right here on Bama Insider and the Bama Insider YouTube channel. And you can join Bama Insider right now for $1. That's not $1 a month. That's $1 for the first year. And we're so confident that you're going to like it. You're going to want to stay here because we have the resources. We have the experts when it comes to recruiting, Joseph Hastings and, of course, Andrew Bone. They're beating the streets right now to tell you exactly what's going on in the world of recruiting with Alabama, the #1 recruiting class right now. Now, that can change a lot between now and, signing day. But Nick Saban has this amazing track record, if you didn't know it already, on signing classes. So even with the NIL and everything else that we're seeing in the world of recruiting, Nick Saban and his staff just continue to roll. All right, Bone, let's get into the linebacker class and the fact that these guys have a chance to be really special.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very talented group. I think that they've got a chance to really close pretty strong over the course of the next few months. I mean, you look at what they have so far with Justin Jefferson, top linebacker, JUCO linebacker in the country. I mean, this is certainly a exciting football player, and definitely somebody that Alabama fans are stoked about. From watching this film, I mean, this is a guy who's a little bit undersized, about 6 foot, 215 pounds, but has been clocked at 4.37 in the 40, and that's pretty fast for a linebacker. If you didn't know, this is certainly a guy that I think can come in and make a big impact right away. And they're probably going to need it. I mean, especially with some guys that are going to be leaving. But Jan Pierre, another great edge rusher in this class, had a great performance in Tuscaloosa back during the summer. Yeah, I don't think they are quite finished yet at the linebacker position. There's some really elite players that are out there. Keon, Keeley, major target for Alabama. This is a guy that is 6'5", 245 pounds. Just is everything you look for in an edge rusher. With his speed, his quickness, his length. Similar to Dallas Turner. He talked about Terrell Lewis, Christian Miller as guys that he watched a lot growing up that he really liked. And over the course of the last couple of years, Dallas Turner, Will Anderson, and he's certainly a guy that I feel is going to end up in Alabama's class when all is said and done. Suntarine Perkins, another big time player, committed to Ole Miss right now, recruited mainly as an inside linebacker. I think Alabama also has a great chance to flip Suntarine Perkins. I think they were probably closer to getting him on board maybe a month or so ago. I still think he ends up in Alabama's class, but he's going to just do it on his own. He's not going to do it when everybody expects him to do it. So Ole Miss is still fighting. Ole Miss is trying to keep him on board, but you look at that right there. Alabama, currently leading the RPM for Suntarine Perkins. for somebody who's currently committed to Ole Miss. So keep an eye on that. And Damon Wilson, another top player that they are still recruiting, edge rusher out of Venice High School in Florida, has Alabama on his short list. And as we mentioned earlier, Qua Russaw, one of the premier linebacker targets in the country. If I had to guess, I would say I think that Alabama's got the best chance with Keon, Keeley, Perkins, Russaw. Damon Wilson's there. I think Alabama, like I said, is on that short list. But you start loading up at the linebacker position, especially if you get potentially Keon, Keeley on board before November, December. Because I think Damon Wilson is going to wait. I think he's going to wait until probably December before making that decision. So he sees a couple of edge rushers in Alabama's class. Not necessarily, scared of competition, but may decide to go somewhere that may not have two other elite edge rushers, because Yanze Pierre, one of the top 100 players in the country, Keon Keeley, 5-star recruit, certainly in pretty good shape if you're Alabama. But they absolutely love Damon Wilson. They're going to continue to recruit him very heavily over the course of the next few months. And then, like I said, Qua Russaw going to wait all the way until December to make a decision. So they're in good shape with some linebackers, and they have a few on board right now, but I think it's certainly going to get a lot better. And I think that they're really going to challenge to be that top linebacker, not only the top recruiting class in the country, but the very best linebacker class in the country when all is said and done.
Awesome. Well, Bone, before we get out of here, just kind of like your thought on the way that NIL's impacting recruiting. Have you seen anything that makes you think that stuff's changing? Because it seems like Alabama and Nick Saban are still rolling like normal. And then we see some other teams, last year it was Texas A&M. This year it's Texas. They've recruited in the past. Obviously, there's a lot of smoke there. But your thoughts on just kind of how the recruiting aspect of things has changed, or has it with NIL?
Well, it certainly has changed a lot. I think there are multiple kids in this recruiting cycle who have likely gone elsewhere because of NIL, because of some things that have been presented. I think there's some schools who have almost an unlimited fund as far as collectives are concerned, and certainly using that to their advantage, and nothing illegal against it, even though it wasn't really set up for recruiting purposes. Nobody's really telling anybody to stop, or that they got to have a salary cap or anything like that. So until we see some rules get put in place, it's almost like a free-for-all right now. People are just doing whatever, basically whatever they want. So we've seen some, obviously, a lot of changes. We've seen some guys who've gone elsewhere who probably wouldn't have gone elsewhere. And I'm not just talking about Alabama targets. I'm talking about just targets in general. We've seen some big names that have committed to schools that, they may not be the flashy score. They may not be the in-state score. They may not be a top 25 program in the country, but we're seeing kids make decisions, and a lot of it has been based on NIL. Now, Alabama, what they really want as far as getting kids on campus, they want to explain NIL to them. They want to show them, hey, get your education on NIL. Understand you have all these opportunities for NIL in Tuscaloosa, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities that are going to be presented to you, throughout the course of your college career. But we also are recruiting you to come play football and to be a student athlete. We're not recruiting you to, have a fancy car. We're not recruiting you to have, $1 million penthouse. We want you to come here, develop, and, we want to, develop you as a player on and off the field. And, that's something that a lot of these kids have really gravitated to over the course of the last few months. When they come in for their official visits, they sit down with the coaches and they really get a chance to understand. Now, we've seen a lot of kids who haven't come in for official visits yet, who I believe will be coming in for official visits this fall. And Alabama is going to continue to sell their program, not sell NIL. Even though we all know Alabama is one of the biggest name brands in the country, and NIL is always going to be there.
All right, Bone, I think you've said it all. You've given everyone a big update on things going on in the world of recruiting. Anything that we need to look forward to reading on BamaInsider.com when we spend the $1 and join? If we're not already a member, or if we're a member, we just tag in and check it out.
Yeah, we got some great recruiting content on Bama Insider right now. Obviously, team content's all over the place. I mean, Jimmy Stein and Clint Lamb do such a great job as far as putting content out there. Getting all the practice coverage, all the fall camp stuff, including nuggets from the first scrimmage. But Joseph Hastings and I are certainly bringing a lot of scoop to the Alabama site on BamaInsider.com. Today, I have posted an interview, not an interview, but an update, my latest insider report, which breaks down all of the early enrollees. Who's enrolling early at Alabama in this year's recruiting class? Who's not? We have the complete list of guys on there right now. Also have grades for each Alabama assistant coach who's in their first year in Tuscaloosa. So we break down who they've been able to sign so far, or earn commitments from, not sign, earn commitments from, who they're still going after. It's kind of our overall view of how they've been able to perform thus far, and then giving them a grade.
What kind of grader are you? What kind of professor are you, Bone? Are you a tough professor? Are you easy? Are you in the middle somewhere? I can't wait to see what your grades are like.
A lot of it just kind of depends on, what's all put on their plate. If they have a absolutely loaded plate, if they have a lot of different guys that they're going after and they're only getting a few of them, we're going to be hard on them. But if you only have, 4 or 5 guys that you're going after and you get, 3 or 4 of them on board, then man, you got an A+. I'll give you one grade so far. So we gave a grade to Travaris Robinson, Coach T-Rob, cornerbacks coach, first year at Alabama, which we knew coming in. T-Rob was an elite recruiter. How good was he going to be able to be at Alabama in his first year? Because a lot of times it takes these guys about a year or two to kind of get their beak wet and develop a lot of relationships. But, I think Alabama did a good job as far as, their hires in this cycle, or in this 2022 year, guys that have been at the college level, have been coaching at the college level, who are known as elite recruiters, who have a lot of relationships. I mean, Travaris Robinson landed Caleb Downs, the top safety in the country out of Georgia. But Caleb's been talking to T-Rob for the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, this is a long-standing relationship, and kind of the same goes for Tony Mitchell, Jahil Hurley, 2 other 5-star defensive backs in this recruiting class. So, he's got 3 5-star defensive backs in this class. He also helped recruit Justice Haynes, the number 3 running back in the country. So we gave T-Rob an A+ for his efforts so far, and when I say A+, I guess you can give him maybe a 97 or 98. There's still some guys out there that he can potentially land, including Cormani McClain. He gets Cormani McClain, we're going to give him a 99 or 100 on that grade. But we really broke down the other coaches, Coach Wolford, Coach Coleman Hutzler, Coach Joe Cox as well in there. Kind of showed who all they're still going after and, kind of their current grade. We broke down the defensive back recruiting board, where things stand, especially with Cormani McClain, some other guys that they're recruiting. I got a few other little nuggets in there that I think Alabama fans will enjoy. So you can go on there and read all of that for $1. You just go to BamaInsider.com, subscribe, $1. Read all that content, get on the message board, join the community. Joseph Hastings has a great breakdown of why Alabama is currently sitting with the number 1 recruiting class in the country on Bama Insider right now. I also have a great interview coming tomorrow for Alabama fans with Justice Haynes' father, Veron Haynes, who played at Georgia. Got his breakdown of why Alabama ended up winning his son's recruitment, and a lot of good things he said about the Crimson Tide, and if Justice is going to continue to take some visits this fall. So a lot of good stuff coming to BamaInsider.com over the course of the next few days. So sign up, come on there, and if you got any questions, I'm on the board pretty much all day long. So you can come on there, spend some time with us, ask me questions, and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible.
Bone, I had a great time. Let's do it again next Tuesday.
I'll be there.
All right, next Tuesday we'll do it again. Recruiting with Andrew Bone right here on Bama Insider, the Bama Insider YouTube channel. And don't forget, like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. That's a way you say Roll Tide to us, and share. Tell people about it. You can click on it, share the link, put it out there. Let everyone else know in the world of college football what's coming with Nick Saban and this coaching staff and this recruiting class, because Bone's going to be the one to kind of tell you exactly what's going on right now. And we appreciate all you guys for hanging out. And one more time, don't forget, sign up for BamaInsider.com, just $1 for the entire year. Chris Daughtry behind the scenes, another fantastic job for Andrew Bone. I'm Mick Gillispie again. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you real soon. We'll have all the Nick Saban press conferences. Anytime the players speak, we'll have that as well. We'll get you ready for Alabama and Utah State and much more. So stick around right here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. We'll talk to you real soon. Roll Tide, everybody.